Alien Business Head Office, Bo. This article is about the 1979 science fiction film. For the franchise it started, see Alien, franchise. Alien. A large egg-shaped object that is cracked and emits a yellowish light hovers in midair against a black background and above a waffle-like floor. The title Alien appears in block letters above the egg, and just below it, the tagline appears in smaller type, "In space no one can hear you scream." Theatrical release poster by Philip Gips. Directed by Ridley Scott. Screenplay by Dan O'Bannon. Story by Dan O'Bannon. Ronald Shusett. Produced by Gordon Carroll. David Giler. Walter Hill. Starring Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, Yaphet Kotto. Cinematography Derek Van Lint. Edited by Terry Rawlings. Peter Weatherly. Music by Jerry Goldsmith. Production companies: 20th Century Fox, Brandywine Productions 1-2. Distributed by 20th Century Fox. Release date: May 25, 1979, United States. September 6, 1979, United Kingdom. Running time 117 minutes. 3 countries: United Kingdom, United States 1-2. Language English. Budget $11 million a 5. Box office $106.3 million 5/6. Alien is a 1979 science fiction horror film directed by Ridley Scott and written by Dan O'Bannon. Based on a story by O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, it follows the crew of the commercial space tug Nostromo, who encounter the eponymous alien, an aggressive and deadly extraterrestrial set loose on the ship. The film stars Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, and Yaphet Kotto. It was produced by Gordon Carroll, David Giler, and Walter Hill through their company Brandywine Productions, and was distributed by 20th Century Fox. Giler and Hill revised and made additions to the script. Shusett was executive producer. The alien and its accompanying artifacts were designed by the Swiss artist H.R. Geiger, while concept artists Ron Cobb and Chris Foss designed the more human settings. Alien premiered May 25, 1979, as the opening night of the 4th Seattle International Film Festival, presented in 70mm at midnight. 7/8/9, it received a wide release on June 22 and was released September 6 in the United Kingdom. It was met with mixed reviews on release but was a box office success, winning the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, 3 Saturn Awards, Best Science Fiction Film, Best Direction for Scott, and Best Supporting Actress for Cartwright, and a Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. In 2002, Alien was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress and was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. In 2008, it was ranked by the American Film Institute as the 7th best film in the science fiction genre, and as the 33rd greatest film of all time by Empire. The success of Alien spawned a media franchise of films, novels, comic books, video games, and toys. It also launched Weaver's acting career, providing her with her first lead role. The story of her character's encounters with the alien creatures became the thematic and narrative core of the sequels Aliens, 1986, Alien 3, 1992, and Alien Resurrection, 1997. A crossover with the Predator franchise produced the Alien vs. Predator films, Alien vs. Predator, 2004, and Aliens vs. Predator, Requiem, 2007. A prequel series includes Prometheus, 2012, and Alien, Covenant, 2017, both directed by Scott. Contents: 1 plot, 2 cast, 3 production, 3.1 writing, 3.2 Development. 3.3 Casting. 3.4 Filming. 3.5 Post-production. 3.6 Music. 4 Design. 4.1 Creature effects. 4.2 The Alien. 4.3 Sets. 4.4 Spaceships and Planets. 4.5 Title Sequence. 5 Release. 5.1 Box Office. 5.2 Critical Reception. 5.3 Accolades. 6 Post-release. 6.1 Home video. 6.2 Cinematic analysis. 6.3 Audience research. 7 Legacy. 7.1 Retrospective reception and lasting praise. 7.2 Cultural influences. 7.3 Merchandise. 7.4 School play adaptation. 8 Sequels and franchise. 9 Notes. 10 See also. 11 References. 11.1 Notes. 11.2 Bibliography. 11.3 Further reading. 12 External links. Plot. The commercial space tug Nostromo is returning to Earth with a 7-member crew in stasis: Captain Dallas, Executive Officer Kane, Warrant Officer Ripley, Navigator Lambert, Science Officer Ash, and 2 engineers, Parker and Brett. Detecting a transmission from a nearby moon, the ship's computer, Mother, awakens the crew. Per company policy requiring any potential distress signal be investigated, they land on the moon despite Parker's protests, sustaining damage from its atmosphere and rocky landscape in the process. The engineers stay on board to effect repairs while Dallas, Kane, and Lambert head out to investigate. They discover the signal originates from a derelict alien ship and enter it, losing communication with the Nostromo. Ripley deciphers part of the transmission, determining it to be a warning, but cannot relay this information to those on the derelict ship. Meanwhile, Kane discovers a chamber containing hundreds of large, egg-like objects. When he touches one, a creature springs out, breaks through his helmet, and attaches itself to his face. Dallas and Lambert carry the unconscious Kane back to the Nostromo. As acting senior officer, Ripley refuses to let them aboard, citing quarantine regulations, but Ash overrides her decision and lets them inside. Ash attempts to remove the creature from Kane's face, but stops when he discovers that its blood is an extremely corrosive acid. It later detaches of its own accord and is found dead. The ship is partially repaired, and the crew continue their journey back to Earth. Kane awakens with some memory loss, but seems to be otherwise unharmed. During a final crew meal before returning to stasis, he suddenly chokes and convulses. A small alien creature bursts from Kane's chest, killing him, and escapes into the ship, with Ash dissuading the rest from killing it. The crew attempts to locate the creature with tracking devices and capture it with nets, electric prods, and flamethrowers. Brett follows the crew's Cat Jones into a landing leg compartment, 10, where the now fully grown alien attacks Brett and disappears with his body. After a heated discussion, the crew decide the creature must be in the air ducts. Dallas enters the ducts, intending to force the monster into an airlock, but it ambushes and kills him. Lambert, realizing that the alien intends to aggressively kill the crew one by one, implores the others to abandon ship and escape in its small shuttle, but Ripley, now in command, explains it will not support 4 people and insists on continuing with Dallas' plan of flushing out the alien. Accessing Mother, Ripley discovers Ash has been secretly ordered by the company to bring the alien back, with the crew considered expendable. She confronts Ash, who tries to choke her to death. Parker intervenes and clubs Ash, knocking his head loose and revealing him as an android. Ash's head is reactivated, and they learn he was assigned to ensure the creature's survival. He expresses admiration for the creature's psychology, unhindered by conscience or morality, and taunts them about their chances of survival. Ripley cuts off his power. As they leave, Parker incinerates him. The remaining crew decide to self-destruct the Nostromo and escape in the shuttle. However, Parker and Lambert are ambushed and killed by the creature while gathering life support supplies. Ripley initiates the self-destruct sequence, but finds the alien blocking her path to the shuttle. She retreats and attempts unsuccessfully to abort the self-destruct. With no further options, she makes her way to the shuttle and barely escapes as the Nostromo explodes. As Ripley prepares for stasis, she discovers that the alien is aboard, having wedged itself into a narrow space. She puts on a spacesuit and uses gas to flush the creature out. It approaches Ripley, but before it can attack, she opens an airlock door, almost blasting the creature into space. It manages to hang on by gripping the frame. Ripley shoots it with a grappling hook, but the gun catches as the airlock door closes, tethering the alien to the shuttle. It pulls itself into an engine exhaust, but Ripley fires the engines, blasting the creature away into the depths of space. After recording the final log entry, she places Jones and herself into stasis for the trip back to Earth. Cast. The 7 principal cast members of the film stand in front of a white backdrop, in costume and holding prop weapons from the film. The principal cast members of Alien, left to right: Holm, Stanton, Weaver, Cato, Scarrett, Cartwright, and Hurt. See also, List of Alien film series characters. Tom Skerritt as Dallas, captain of the Nostromo. Skerritt had been approached early in the film's development, but declined as it did not yet have a director and had a very low budget. Later, when Scott was attached as director and the budget had been doubled, Skerritt accepted the role. 11-12. Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, the warrant officer aboard the Nostromo. Weaver, who had Broadway experience but was relatively unknown in film, impressed Scott, Giler, and Hill with her audition. She was the last actor to be cast for the film, and performed most of her screen tests in studio as the sets were being built. 12-13, the role of Ripley was Weaver's first leading role in a motion picture, and earned her nominations for a Saturn Award for Best Actress and a BAFTA Award for Most Promising Newcomer to Leading Film Role. 14. Veronica Cartwright as a Lambert, the Nostromo's navigator. Cartwright had experience in horror and science fiction films, having acted as a child in The Birds, 1963, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978. 15. She originally read for the role of Ripley, and was not informed that she had instead been cast as Lambert until she arrived in London for wardrobe. 12-16, she disliked the character's emotional weakness. 13, but nevertheless accepted the role. They convinced me that I was the audience's fears, I was a reflection of what the audience is feeling. 12. Cartwright won a Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actress for her performance. 17. Harry Dean Stanton as Brett, the engineering technician. Stanton's first words to Scott during his audition were, "I don't like sci-fi or monster movies." 11. Scott was amused and convinced Stanton to take the role after reassuring him that Alien would actually be a thriller more akin to 10 Little Indians. 11. John Hurt as Kane, the executive officer who becomes the host for the Alien. Hurt was Scott's first choice for the role, but he was contracted on a film in South Africa during Alien's filming dates, so John Finch was cast as Kane, instead. 13, however, Finch became ill during the first day of shooting and was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which had also exacerbated a case of bronchitis. 18. Hurt was in London by this time, his South African project having fallen through, and he quickly replaced Finch. 12-18, his performance earned him a nomination for a BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. 19. Ian Holm as Ash, the ship's science officer who is revealed to be an android. Holm was a character actor, who, by 1979, had already been in 20 films. 20. Yaphet Kotto as Parker, the chief engineer. Kotto, an African-American, was chosen partly to add diversity to the cast and give the Nostromo crew an international flavor. 12. Kato was sent a script off the back of his recent success as villain Dr. Kananga in the James Bond film, Live and Let Die, 1973, and said he rejected a lucrative film offer in the hope of being cast in Alien. 21. Bolaji Badejo as the alien. Nigerian Badejo, while a 26-year-old design student, was discovered in a bar by a member of the casting team, who put him in touch with Scott. 1322, Scott believed that Badejo, at 6 feet 10 inches, 208 centimeters 7 feet inside the costume, and with a slender frame, 23, could portray the alien and look as if his arms and legs were too long to be real, creating the illusion that a human being could not possibly be inside the costume. 1322-24, stuntman Eddie Powell and Roy Scammell also portrayed the alien in some scenes. 24-25. Helen Horton as the voice of Mother, the Nostromo's computer. Production. Writing. Screenwriter Dan O'Bannon. While studying cinema at the University of Southern California, Dan O'Bannon had made a science fiction comedy film, Dark Star, with director John Carpenter and concept artist Ron Cobb. 26. The film featured an alien, created by spray painting a beach ball and adding rubber claws. The experience left O'Bannon really wanting to do an alien that looked real. 26-27. A couple of years later he began work on a similar story that would focus more on horror. I knew I wanted to do a scary movie on a spaceship with a small number of astronauts, he later recalled, Dark Star as a horror movie instead of a comedy. 26. Ronald Shusett, meanwhile, was working on an early version of what would eventually become Total Recall. 26-27. Impressed by Dark Star, he contacted O'Bannon and the two agreed to collaborate on their projects, choosing to work on O'Bannon's film first, as they believed it would be less costly to produce. 26-27. O'Bannon had written 29 pages of a script titled Memory, containing what would become the opening scenes of Alien. A crew of astronauts awakens to find that their voyage has been interrupted because they are receiving a signal from a mysterious planetoid. They investigate and their ship breaks down on the surface. 24-27. He did not yet have a clear idea as to what the alien antagonist of the story would be. 26. O'Bannon soon accepted an offer to work on Alejandro Jodorowsky's adaptation of Dune, a project that took him to Paris for 6 months. 26-28. Though the project ultimately fell through, it introduced him to several artists whose work gave him ideas for his science fiction story, including Chris Foss, H. R. Giger, and Jean Mobius-Giraud. 24. O'Bannon was impressed by Foss's covers for science fiction books, while he found Giger's work disturbing. 26. His paintings had a profound effect on me. I had never seen anything that was quite as horrible and at the same time as beautiful as his work. And so I ended up writing a script about a Giger monster. 24. After the Dune project collapsed, O'Bannon returned to Los Angeles to live with Shusett and the two revived his memory script. Shusett suggested that O'Bannon use one of his other film ideas, about gremlins infiltrating a B-17 bomber during World War II, and set it on the spaceship as the second half of the story. 24-28. The working title of the project was now Star Beast, but O'Bannon disliked this and changed it to Alien after noting the number of times that the word appeared in the script. Shusett and he liked the new title's simplicity and its double meaning as both a noun and an adjective. 24-26-29. Shusett came up with the idea that one of the crew members could be implanted with an alien embryo that would burst out of him. He thought this would be an interesting plot device by which the alien could get aboard the ship. 26-28. Dan O'Bannon put his finger on the problem. What has to happen next is the creature has to get on the ship in an interesting way. I have no idea how, but if we could solve that, if it can't be that it just snuck in, then I think the whole movie will come into place. In the middle of the night, I woke up and I said, Dan, I think I have an idea. The alien screws one of them, it jumps on his face and plants its seed. and Dan says, "Oh my God, we've got it, we've got the whole movie." Screenwriter Ron Shusett 3031. In writing the script, O'Bannon drew inspiration from many previous works of science fiction and horror. He later stated, "I didn't steal Alien from anybody. I stole it from everybody." 32. The Thing from Another World, 1951, inspired the idea of professional men being pursued by a deadly alien creature through a claustrophobic environment. 32. Forbidden Planet, 1956, gave O'Bannon the idea of a ship being warned not to land, and then the crew being killed one by a mysterious creature when they defy the warning. 32. Planet of the Vampires, 1965, contains a scene in which the heroes discover a giant alien skeleton. This influenced the Nostromo crew's discovery of the alien creature in the derelict spacecraft. 32. O'Bannon has also noted the influence of Junkyard, 1953, a short story by Clifford D. Sumac in which a crew lands on an asteroid and discovers a chamber full of eggs. 27. He has also cited as influences Strange Relations by Philip Jose Farmer, 1960, which covers alien reproduction, and various EC Comics horror titles carrying stories in which monsters eat their way out of people. 27. With most of the plot in place, Shusett and O'Bannon presented their script to several studios. 26, pitching it as Jaws in space. 33, they were on the verge of signing a deal with Roger Corman's studio when a friend offered to find them a better deal and pass the script on to Gordon Carroll, David Giler, and Walter Hill, who had formed a production company called Brandywine with ties to 20th Century Fox. 2634, O'Bannon and Shusett signed a deal with Brandywine, but Hill and Giler were not satisfied with the script and made numerous rewrites and revisions. 2635, this caused tension with O'Bannon and Shusett, since Hill and Giler had very little experience with science fiction. According to Shusett, they weren't good at making it better, or, in fact, at not making it even worse. 26. O'Bannon believed that Hill and Giler were attempting to justify taking his name off the script and claiming Shusett's and his work as their own. 26. Hill and Giler did add some substantial elements to the story, including the android character Ash, which O'Bannon felt was an unnecessary subplot 20, but which Shusett later described as one of the best things in the movie. That whole idea and scenario was theirs. 26. Hill and Giler went through 8 drafts of the script in total, concentrating largely on the Ash subplot, but also making the dialogue more natural and trimming some sequences set on the alien planetoid. 36. Despite the fact that the final shooting script was written by Hill and Giler, the Writers Guild of America awarded O'Bannon sole credit for the screenplay. Development. Director Ridley Scott. Despite these rewrites, 20th Century Fox did not express confidence in financing a science fiction film. However, after the success of Star Wars in 1977, the studio's interest in the genre rose substantially. According to Carroll, when Star Wars came out and was the extraordinary hit that it was, suddenly science fiction became the hot genre. O'Bannon recalled that they wanted to follow through on Star Wars, and they wanted to follow through fast, and the only spaceship script they had sitting on their desk was Alien. 26. Alien was greenlit by 20th Century Fox, with an initial budget of $4.2 million. 2636. Alien was funded by North Americans, but made by 20th Century Fox's British production subsidiary. 37. O'Bannon had originally assumed that he would direct Alien, but 20th Century Fox instead asked Hill to direct. 3638. Hill declined due to other film commitments, as well as not being comfortable with the level of visual effects that would be required. 39. Peter Yates, Jack Clayton, and Robert Aldrich were considered for the task, but O'Bannon, Shusett, and the Brandywine team felt that these directors would not take the film seriously and would instead treat it as a B-monster movie. 3840, Giler, Hill, and Carroll had been impressed by Ridley Scott's debut feature film The Duelists, 1977, and made an offer to him to direct Alien, which Scott quickly accepted. 2440, Scott created detailed storyboards for the film in London, which impressed 20th Century Fox enough to double the film's budget. 1138, his storyboards included designs for the spaceship and spacesuits, drawing on such films as 2001, A Space Odyssey and Star Wars. 11, however, he was keen on emphasizing horror in Alien rather than fantasy, describing the film as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of science fiction. 3840. Casting. Further information on individual characters, list of Alien characters. Casting calls and auditions for Alien were held in both New York City and London. 11. With only 7 human characters in the story, Scott sought to hire strong actors so he could focus most of his energy on the film's visual style. 11. He employed casting director Mary Selway, who had worked with him on The Duelists, to head the casting in the United Kingdom, while Mary Goldberg handled casting in the United States. 1241. In developing the story, O'Bannon had focused on writing the alien first, putting off developing the other characters. 38. Shusett and he had intentionally written all the roles generically. They made a note in the script that explicitly states, the crew is unisex and all parts are interchangeable for men or women. 1242. This freed Scott, Selway, and Goldberg to interpret the characters as they pleased, and to cast accordingly. They wanted the Nostromo's crew to resemble working astronauts in a realistic environment, a concept summarized as truckers in space. 1112. According to Scott, this concept was inspired partly by Star Wars, which deviated from the pristine future often depicted in science fiction films of the time. 43. To assist the actors in preparing for their roles, Scott wrote several pages of backstory for each character explaining their histories. 3644. He filmed many of their rehearsals to capture spontaneity and improvisation, and tensions between some of the cast members, particularly towards the less experienced Weaver. This translated convincingly to film as tension between the characters. 44. Roger Ebert notes that the actors in Alien were older than was typical in thriller films at the time, which helped make the characters more convincing. None of them were particularly young. Tom Skerritt, the captain, was 46, Hurt was 39 but looked older, Holm was 48, Harry Dean Stanton was 53, Yaphet Kotto was 42, and only Veronica Cartwright at 30 and Weaver at 29 were in the age range of the usual thriller cast. Many recent action pictures have improbably young actors cast as key roles or sidekicks, but by skewing older, Alien achieves a certain texture without even making a point of it. These are not adventurers but workers, hired by a company to return 20 million tons of ore to Earth. 45. David McIntee, author of Beautiful Monsters, the unofficial and unauthorized guide to the Alien and Predator films, asserts that part of the film's effectiveness in frightening viewers comes from the fact that the audience can all identify with the characters. Everyone aboard the Nostromo is a normal, everyday, working Joe just like the rest of us. They just happen to live and work in the future. 46. Filming. In a film studio, a director operates a crane-mounted camera aimed at a large gray model spacecraft, raised several feet in the air by a support structure underneath. The model is lit from one side by bright studio lights and has tall spires with many pieces protruding from them. Ridley Scott filmed model shots of the Nostromo and its attached ore refinery. He made slow passes filming at 21 halves frames per second to give the models the appearance of motion. 24. Alien was filmed over 14 weeks from July 5 to October 21, 1978. Principal photography took place at Shepperton Studios near London, while model and miniature filming was done at Bray Studios in Water Oakley, Berkshire. 41. The production schedule was short due to the film's low budget and pressure from 20th Century Fox to finish on time. 44. A crew of over 200 craftspeople and technicians constructed the three principal sets: the surface of the alien planetoid, and the interiors of the Nostromo and the derelict spacecraft. 24. Art director Leigh Dilley created 1/24th scale miniatures of the planetoid's surface and derelict spacecraft based on Geiger's designs, then made molds and casts and scaled them up as diagrams for the wood and fiberglass forms of the sets. 11. Tons of sand, plaster, fiberglass, rock, and gravel were shipped into the studio to sculpt a desert landscape for the planetoid's surface, which the actors would walk across wearing spacesuit costumes. 24. The suits themselves were thick, bulky, and lined with nylon, had no cooling systems, and initially, no venting for their exhaled carbon dioxide to escape. 47. Combined with a heat wave, these conditions nearly caused the actors to pass out. Nurses had to be kept on hand with oxygen tanks. 44-47. For scenes showing the exterior of the Nostromo, a 58-foot, 18 meters, landing leg was constructed to give a sense of the ship's size. Scott was not convinced that it looked large enough, so he had his two young sons and the son of Derek Van Linde, the film's cinematographer, stand in for the regular actors, wearing smaller space suits to make the set pieces seem larger. 47-48. The same technique was used for the scene in which the crew members encounter the dead alien creature in the derelict spacecraft. The children nearly collapsed due to the heat of the suits. Oxygen systems were eventually added to help the actors breathe. 44-47. 4 identical cats were used to portray Jones, the crew's pet. 41. During filming, Sigourney Weaver discovered that she was allergic to the combination of cat hair and the glycerin placed on the actors' skin to make them appear sweaty. By removing the glycerin, she was able to continue working with the cats. 1844. Alien originally was to conclude with the destruction of the Nostromo while Ripley escapes in the shuttle Narcissus. However, Scott conceived of a fourth act to the film in which the alien appears on the shuttle and Ripley is forced to confront it. He pitched the idea to 20th Century Fox and negotiated an increase in the budget to film the scene over several extra days. 2049. Scott had wanted the alien to bite off Ripley's head and then make the final log entry in her voice, but the producers vetoed this idea as they believed the alien should die at the end of the film. 49. Post-production. Editing and post-production work on Alien took roughly 20 weeks to complete, concluding in late January 1979. 50. Terry Rawlings served as editor, having previously worked with Scott on editing sound for The Duelists. 50. Scott and Rawlings edited much of the film to have a slow pace to build suspense for the more tense and frightening moments. According to Rawlings, "I think the way we did get it right was by keeping it slow, funny enough, which is completely different from what they do today. And I think the slowness of it made the moments that you wanted people to be sort of scared. Then we could go as fast as we liked because you've sucked people into a corner and then attacked them, so to speak. And I think that's how it worked." 50. The first cut of the film was over 3 hours long. Further editing trimmed the final version to just under 2 hours. 50-51. One scene that was cut from the film occurred during Ripley's final escape from the Nostromo. She encounters Dallas and Brett, who have been partially cocooned by the alien. O'Bannon had intended the scene to indicate that Brett was becoming an alien egg, while Dallas was held nearby to be implanted by the resulting face-hugger. 34. Production designer Michael Seymour later suggested that Dallas had become sort of food for the alien creature. 48. While Ivor Powell suggested that Dallas is found in the ship as an egg, still alive. 50. Scott remarked, "They're morphing, metamorphosing, they are changing into ... being consumed, I guess, by whatever the alien's organism is ... into an egg." 20. The scene was cut partly because it did not look realistic enough, but also because it slowed the pace of the escape sequence. 34-49. Tom Skerritt remarked that the picture had to have that pace. "Her trying to get the hell out of there, we're all rooting for her to get out of there, and for her to slow up and have a conversation with Dallas was not appropriate. 50. The footage was included with other deleted scenes as a special feature on the Laserdisc release of Alien, and a shortened version of it was reinserted into the 2003 director's cut, which was re-released in theaters and on DVD. 3452. Music. Main article, Alien soundtrack. Jerry Goldsmith composed the music for Alien. The musical score for Alien was composed by Jerry Goldsmith, conducted by Lionel Newman, and performed by the National Philharmonic Orchestra. Scott had originally wanted the film to be scored by Isao Mita, but 20th Century Fox wanted a more familiar composer and Goldsmith was recommended by then-president of Fox Alan Ladd Jr. 53. Goldsmith wanted to create a sense of romanticism and lyrical mystery in the film's opening scenes, which would build throughout the film to suspense and fear. 50. Scott did not like Goldsmith's original main title piece, however, so Goldsmith rewrote it as The Obvious Thing, Weird and Strange, and which everybody loved. 50-53. Another source of tension was editor Terry Rawlings' choice to use pieces of Goldsmith's music from previous films, including a piece from Freud, The Secret Passion, and to use an excerpt from Howard Henson's Symphony No. 2, Romantic, for the end credits. 50-53-54-55. Scott and Rawlings had also become attached to several of the musical cues they had used for the temporary score while editing the film, and re-edited some of Goldsmith's cues and rescored several sequences to match these cues and even left the temporary score in place in some parts of the finished film. 50. Goldsmith later remarked, "You can see that I was sort of like going at opposite ends of the pole with the filmmakers." 50. Nevertheless, Scott praised Goldsmith's score as full of dark beauty, 53, and seriously threatening, but beautiful. 50. It was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Original Score, a Grammy Award for Best Soundtrack Album, and a BAFTA Award for Best Film Music. Citation needed. The score has been released as a soundtrack album in several versions with different tracks and sequences. 56. Design. Creature effects. Further information on the creature in Alien franchise. A man covered with sweat lays on a medical examination table, with a spider-like alien creature covering his face. The creature is beige in color and has 4 long, thin fingers on either side of its body that grasp tightly around the man's head, and its long tail is coiled around his neck. The face-hugger was the first creature Giger designed for the film, giving it human-like fingers and a long tail. 2257. The head and tail of an alien creature is emerging from the ruptured chest cavity of a dead man. The small eyeless creature is beige in color, has sharp metallic-looking teeth and a long segmented tail. A significant amount of blood covers the creature and the man's body. The chest burster was shoved up through the table and a false torso by a puppeteer. 22. The scene has been recognized as one of the film's most memorable. O'Bannon introduced Scott to the artwork of H.R. Giger. Both of them felt that his painting Necronom 4 was the type of representation they wanted for the film's antagonist and began asking the studio to hire him as a designer. 3840. 20th Century Fox initially believed Giger's work was too ghastly for audiences, but the Brandywine team were persistent and eventually won out. 40. According to Gordon Carroll, the first second that Ridley saw Giger's work, he knew that the biggest single design problem, maybe the biggest problem in the film, had been solved. 38. Scott flew to Zurich to meet Giger and recruited him to work on all aspects of the alien and its environment, including the surface of the planetoid, the derelict spacecraft, and all 4 forms of the alien from the egg to the adult. 3840. The scene of Kane inspecting the egg was shot in post-production. A fiberglass egg was used so that actor John Hurt could shine his light on it and see movement inside, which was provided by Scott fluttering his hands inside the egg while wearing rubber gloves. 58. The top of the egg was hydraulic, and the innards were a cow's stomach and tripe. 2258. Test shots of the eggs were filmed using hen's eggs, and this footage was used in early teaser trailers. For this reason, the image of a hen's egg was used on the poster, and has become emblematic of the franchise as a whole, as opposed to the alien egg that appears in the finished film. 58. The facehugger and its proboscis, which was made of a sheep's intestine, were shot out of the egg using high-pressure air hoses. The shot was reversed and slowed down in editing to prolong the effect and reveal more detail. 2258. The facehugger itself was the first creature that H.R. Giger designed for the film, going through several versions in different sizes before deciding on a small creature with human-like fingers and a long tail. 2257. Dan O'Bannon, with help from Ron Cobb, drew his own version based on Giger's design, which became the final version. 2057. Cobb came up with the idea that the creature could have a powerful acid for blood, a characteristic that would carry over to the adult alien and would make it impossible for the crew to kill it by conventional means, such as guns or explosives, since the acid would burn through the ship's hull. 2028. For the scene in which the dead facehugger is examined, Scott used pieces of fish and shellfish to create its viscera. 2258. The design of the chest burster was inspired by Francis Bacon's 1944 painting Three Studies for Figures at the Base of a Crucifixion. 22. Giger's original design, which was refined, resembled a plucked chicken. 22. Screenwriter Dan O'Bannon credits his experiences with Crohn's disease for inspiring the chest-busting scene. 59. For the filming of the chest-burster scene, the cast members knew that the creature would be bursting out of hurt, and had seen the chest-burster puppet, but they had not been told that fake blood would also be bursting out in every direction from high-pressure pumps and squibs. 1860. The scene was shot in one take using an artificial torso filled with blood and viscera, with Hurt's head and arms coming up from underneath the table. The chest burster was shoved up through the torso by a puppeteer who held it on a stick. When the creature burst through the chest, a stream of blood shot directly at Cartwright, shocking her enough that she fell over and went into hysterics. 1822-24. According to Tom Skerritt, what you saw on camera was the real response. She had no idea what the hell happened. All of a sudden this thing just came up. 22. The creature then runs off camera, an effect accomplished by cutting a slit in the table for the puppeteer's stick to go through and passing an air hose through the puppet's tail to make it whip about. 22. The real-life surprise of the actors gave the scene an intense sense of realism and made it one of the film's most memorable moments. During preview screenings, the crew noticed that some viewers would move towards the back of the theater so as not to be too close to the screen during the sequence. 51. The scene has frequently been called one of the most memorable moments in cinema history. Citation needed. In 2007, Empire named it as the greatest 18-rated moment in film, ranking it above the decapitation scene in The Omen, 1976, and the transformation sequence in An American Werewolf in London, 1981. 61. For the scene in which Ash is revealed to be an android, a puppet was created of the character's torso and upper body, which was operated from underneath. 44. During a preview screening of the film, this scene caused an usher to faint. 5162. In the following scene, Ash's head is placed on a table and reactivated. For portions of this scene, an animatronic head was made using a face cast of the actor, Ian Holm. 49. However, the latex of the head shrank while curing and the result was not entirely convincing. 44. For the bulk of the scene, Holm knelt under the table with his head coming up through a hole. Milk, caviar, pasta, fiber optics, and Foley's urinary catheters were combined to form the android's innards. 44-49. The Alien. Giger made several conceptual paintings of the adult alien before settling on the final version. He sculpted the creature's body using plasticine, incorporating pieces such as vertebrae from snakes and cooling tubes from a Rolls-Royce. 1322. The creature's head was manufactured separately by Carlo Rambaldi, who had worked on the aliens in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. 63. Rambaldi followed Giger's designs closely, making some modifications to incorporate the moving parts that would animate the jaw and inner mouth. 22. A system of hinges and cables was used to operate the creature's rigid tongue, which protruded from its mouth and featured a second mouth at its tip with its own set of movable teeth. 22. The final head had about 900 moving parts and points of articulation. 22. Part of a human skull was used as the face, and was hidden under the smooth, translucent cover of the head. 13. Rambaldi's original alien jaw is now on display in the Smithsonian Institution. 49. While in April 2007, the original alien suit was sold at auction. 64. Copious amounts of KY jelly were used to simulate saliva and to give the alien an overall slimy appearance. 2257. The creature's vocalizations were provided by Percy Edwards, a voice artist famous for providing bird sounds for British television throughout the 1960s and 1970s, as well as the whale sounds for Orca, Killer Whale, 1977. 5365. For most of the film's scenes, the alien was portrayed by Bolaji Bajo. A latex costume was made to fit Bajo's slender 6 foot 10 inch, 208 centimeters, frame by taking a full-body plaster cast. 2224. Scott later commented that the alien takes on elements of the host, in this case, a man. 40. Bajo attended Tai Chi and mime classes to create convincing movements for the alien. 1322. For some scenes, such as when the alien lowers itself from the ceiling to kill Brett, the creature was portrayed by stuntman Eddie Powell and Roy Scammell. 2425. Powell, in costume, was suspended on wires and then lowered in an unfurling motion. 2258. Scott chose not to show the full alien for most of the film, keeping most of its body in shadow to create a sense of terror and heightened suspense. The audience could thus project their own fears into imagining what the rest of the creature might look like. 22. Every movement is going to be very slow, very graceful, and the alien will alter shape so you never really know exactly what he looks like. 24. Scott said, "I've never liked horror films before, because in the end it's always been a man in a rubber suit. Well, there's one way to deal with that. The most important thing in a film of this type is not what you see, but the effect of what you think you saw." Ridley Scott. 24. The alien has been referred to as one of the most iconic movie monsters in film history, and its biomechanical appearance and sexual overtones have been frequently noted. 66. Roger Ebert remarked that Alien uses a tricky device to keep the alien fresh throughout the movie. It evolves the nature and appearance of the creature, so we never know quite what it looks like or what it can do. The first time we get a good look at the alien, as it bursts from the chest of poor Kane, John Hurt. It is unmistakably phallic in shape, and the critic Tim Dirks mentions its open, dripping vaginal mouth. 45. Sets. The sets of the Nostromo's 3 decks were each created almost entirely in one piece, with each deck occupying a separate stage. The actors had to navigate through the hallways that connected the stages, adding to the film's sense of claustrophobia and realism. 2444-57. The sets used large transistors and low-resolution computer screens to give the ship a used, industrial look and make it appear as though it was constructed of retrofitted old technology. 48. Ron Cobb created industrial-style symbols and color-coded signs for various areas and aspects of the ship. 48. The company that owns the Nostromo is not named in the film, and is referred to by the characters as the company. However, the name and logo of the company appears on several set pieces and props such as computer monitors and beer cans as Weyland Yutani. 67. Cobb created the name to imply a business alliance between Britain and Japan, deriving Weyland from the British Leyland Motor Corporation and Yutani from the name of his Japanese neighbor. 68-69. The 1986 sequel, Aliens, named the company as Wayland Yutani, 6870, and it has remained a central aspect of the film franchise. Art director Roger Christian used scrap metal and parts to create set pieces and props to save money, a technique he employed while working on Star Wars. 4871, for example, some of the Nostromo's corridors were created from portions of scrapped bomber aircraft, and a mirror was used to create the illusion of longer corridors in the below-deck area. 48. Special effects supervisors Brian Johnson and Nick Elder made many of the set pieces and props function, including moving chairs, computer monitors, motion trackers, and flamethrowers. 1824. H. R. Giger designed and worked on all of the alien aspects of the film, which he designed to appear organic and biomechanical in contrast to the industrial look of the Nostromo and its human elements. 2448. For the interior of the derelict spacecraft and egg chamber, he used dried bones with plaster to sculpt much of the scenery and elements. 2448. Veronica Cartwright described Giger's sets as so erotic. It's big vaginas and penises. The whole thing is like you're going inside of some sort of womb or whatever. It's sort of visceral. 48. The set with the deceased alien creature, which the production team nicknamed the Space Jockey, proved problematic, as 20th Century Fox did not want to spend the money for such an expensive set that would only be used for one scene. Scott described the set as the cockpit or driving deck of the mysterious ship, and the production team was able to convince the studio that the scene was important to impress the audience and make them aware that this was not a B-movie. 4858. To save money, only one wall of the set was created, and the Space Jockey sat atop a disc that could be rotated to facilitate shots from different angles in relation to the actors. 2458. Giger airbrushed the entire set and the Space Jockey by hand. 4858. The origin of the jockey creature was not explored in the film, but Scott later theorized that it might have been the ship's pilot, and that the ship might have been a weapons carrier capable of dropping alien eggs onto a planet so that the aliens could use the local life forms as hosts. 20. In early versions of the script, the eggs were to be located in a separate pyramid structure, which would be found later by the Nostromo crew and would contain statues and hieroglyphs depicting the alien reproductive cycle, contrasting the human, alien, and space jockey cultures. 28. Cobb, Foss, and Giger each created concept artwork for these sequences, but they were eventually discarded due to budgetary concerns and the need to shorten the film. 24. Instead, the egg chamber was set inside the derelict ship and was filmed on the same set as the space jockey scene. The entire disc piece supporting the jockey and its chair was removed and the set was redressed to create the egg chamber. 24. Light effects in the egg chamber were created by lasers borrowed from English rock band The Who. The band was testing the lasers for use in their stage show on a sound stage next door. 72. Spaceships and planets. I resent films that are so shallow they rely entirely on their visual effects, and of course science fiction films are notorious for this. I've always felt that there's another way to do it. A lot of effort should be expended toward rendering the environment of the spaceship, or space travel, whatever the fantastic setting of your story should be as convincingly as possible, but always in the background. That way the story and the characters emerge and they become more real. Ron Cobb on his designs for Alien 24. O'Bannon brought in artists Ron Cobb and Chris Foss, with whom he had worked on Dark Star and Dune, respectively, to work on designs for the human aspects of the film such as the spaceship and space suits. 3868, Cobb created hundreds of preliminary sketches of the interiors and exteriors of the ship, which went through many design concepts and possible names such as Leviathan and Snark as the script was developed. The final name of the ship was derived from the title of Joseph Conrad's 1904 novel Nostromo, while the escape shuttle, called Narcissus in the script, was named after Conrad's 1897 novella The Nigger of the Narcissus. 67. The production team particularly praised Cobb's ability to depict the interior settings of the ship in a realistic and believable manner. Under Scott's direction, the design of the Nostromo shifted towards an 800-foot-long, 240 meters, tug towing a refining platform 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers, long and 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometers, wide. 24. Cobb also created some conceptual drawings of the alien, but these were not used. 3868. Mobius was attached to the project for a few days, as well, and his costume rendering served as the basis for the final spacesuits created by costume designer John Mallow. 2468. The spaceships and planets for the film were shot using models and miniatures. These included models of the Nostromo, its attached mineral refinery, the escape shuttle Narcissus, the alien planetoid, and the exterior and interior of the derelict spacecraft. Visual effects supervisor Brian Johnson and supervising model maker Martin Bauer and their team worked at Bray Studios, roughly 25 miles, 40 kilometers, from Shepperton Studios. 7374. The designs of the Nostromo and its attachments were based on combinations of Scott's storyboards and Ron Cobb's conceptual drawings. 73. The basic outlines of the models were made of wood and plastic, and most of the fine details were added from model kits of warships, tanks, and World War II bombers. 3 models of the Nostromo were made, a 12-inch, 30 centimeters, version for medium and long shots, a 4-foot, 1.2 meters, version for rear shots, and a 12-foot, 3.7 meters, 7 short ton, 6.4 tons, rig for the undocking and planetoid surface sequences. 2474. Scott insisted on numerous changes to the models even as filming was taking place, leading to conflicts with the modeling and filming teams. The Nostromo was originally yellow, and the team filmed shots of the models for 6 weeks before Johnson left to work on The Empire Strikes Back. Scott then ordered it changed to gray, and the team had to begin shooting again from scratch. 7374. He asked that more and more pieces be added to the model such that the final version, with the refinery, required a metal framework so that it could be hoisted by a forklift. He also took a hammer and chisel to sections of the refinery, knocking off many of the spires that Bauer had spent weeks creating. Scott also had disagreements with miniature effects cinematographer Dennis Ailing over how to light the models. 73. A separate model, about 40 feet, 12 meters, long, was created for the Nostromo's underside from which the Narcissus would detach and from which Kane's body would be launched during the funeral scene. Bauer carved Kane's burial shroud out of wood. It was launched through the hatch using a small catapult and filmed at high speed. The footage was slowed down in editing. 7363. Only one shot was filmed using blue screen compositing, that of the shuttle racing past the Nostromo. The other shots were simply filmed against black backdrops, with stars added by double exposure. 74. Though motion control photography technology was available at the time, the film's budget would not allow for it. The team, therefore, used a camera with wide-angle lenses mounted on a drive mechanism to make slow passes over and around the models, filming at 21/2 frames per second, 24, giving them the appearance of motion. Scott added smoke and wind effects to enhance the illusion. 73. For the scene in which the Nostromo detaches from the refinery, a 30-foot, 9.1 meters, docking arm was created using pieces from model railway kits. The Nostromo was pushed away from the refinery by a forklift covered in black velvet, causing the arm to extend out from the refinery. This created the illusion that the arm was pushing the ship forward. 7374. Shots of the ship's exterior in which characters are seen moving around inside were filmed using larger models which contain projection screens displaying pre-recorded footage. 73. A separate model was created for the exterior of the derelict alien spacecraft. Matte paintings were used to fill in areas of the ship's interior, as well as exterior shots of the planetoid's surface. 73. The surface as seen from space during the landing sequence was created by painting a globe white, then mixing chemicals and dyes onto transparencies and projecting them onto it. 2474. The planetoid was not named in the film, but some drafts of the script gave it the name Acheron 13, after the river which in Greek mythology is described as the stream of woe. It is a branch of the river Styx, and forms the border of hell in Dante's Inferno. The 1986 sequel Aliens named the planet O,